Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, November 15th, 2023. I am Dave Biddle. I'll be joined by Steve Helwagen in just a moment. I, of course, want to tell you about our great sponsor, Manscaped, and a great deal that you guys can get. It's not a bird. It's not a plane. It is a ball trimmer sent from space. Gentlemen, our friends over at Manscaped have been working night and day to bring you a below-the-waist grooming experience like none other with their brand new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. We're talking about a next generation trimmer with interchangeable blade heads for whatever shave your mind can imagine. Upgrade your grooming game to the Ultra Sphere this year by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code Bucknuts. High tech for low places, Manscaped. Again, 20% off plus free shipping with the code Bucknuts at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code Bucknuts at manscaped.com. I can promise you've never seen a ball trimmer look like a spaceship. Get yours today from our folks at Manscaped. There you go. Patrick Murphy would be joining us, but he said he's got to do so much manscaping today that he couldn't join the show. But Steve's going to hop on in just a minute. We're going to get to all things Buckeye football, Ohio State falling to number 2 in the college football playoff ranking. Not a big surprise. Let's bring in Steve right now. Perfect timing, my friend. Buckeyes dropped. Hello. Buckeyes dropping to number 2 in the ranking. Not a surprise. I expected it. I'm sure you did as well. What do you think it means going forward?
Well, I don't think it means much of anything. I think it just means that you have to win your games. And, somebody on my chat said, well, should they have left the starters in to impress the committee and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no. Because if you get somebody hurt and you don't beat Michigan, then you're not going to go to the playoff anyway, the way it kind of stacks up. I don't think an 11-1 Ohio State team is going to get in there with such tough competition that's kind of looming out there, with Oregon and Alabama and some of these other schools that, already have one loss. Ohio State, in a lot of respects, even with a loss to the number 2 or number 3 ranked team on their field, would probably go to the back of the line. So, it's not going to part like it did last year for Ohio State after they lost to Michigan. So style points really don't mean anything. It's you have to win your games and get to 13-0. And really, I think if you beat Michigan and there's no way they would lose to Iowa, but 13-0, I think that's the mission, and that's the only path as I see it right now. That's their only path into the playoff.
I agree with you. I don't think last night really meant anything. It didn't surprise me. Beat Michigan in 10 days. That's what it comes down to.
You can make a case to be number 1 at that point. And really, what does that mean? It means you're playing the 4 instead of playing the 3. And, again, we're presupposing, this Michigan game is a 50-50 toss-up. I mean, it could go either way. And, there's a lot of people, I can't think of anybody nationally who's going to pick Ohio State to beat Michigan on their field. So, in a lot of ways, it's 40 for Ohio State, 60 for Michigan in national perception. So, you got to pull something off here just to get there. So, presupposing it, and talking about it, really it's kind of meaningless at this point. They got to play good football to win to win that game, no doubt.
Yep. And then if they do beat Michigan, I mean, if Georgia's sitting there at 13-0 and they beat Alabama in the SEC championship game, they're the 2-time defending champion. They enter that game number 1. I have a hard time imagining Ohio State now jumping them. But if Alabama were to beat Georgia, then Ohio State at 13-0 would be your number 1 seed. But just beat Michigan in 10 days. I love that Ohio State's going to go into that game as an underdog. Not just people saying it like national pundits, but like literally in Vegas, they're going to be an underdog. It's so rare that Ohio State's an underdog. And when they are, they come ready to go. Just as Georgia last year. I know Ohio State fell just short against Georgia. That was in their backyard. Ohio State outplayed them. There was some BS calls in that game, overturns. I thought the on-field officials did a good job in that Georgia game. Once again, Ohio State got screwed by terrible college replay officials. But Ohio State is dangerous as heck as an underdog. So I like that they're going into that game as an underdog. I want to get it. What I don't like is all this injury stuff that's mounting, Steve. As we talked about yesterday, after the press conference on our live hit that we did on YouTube, it's not looking good for Mike Hall, in my opinion. I mean, Coach, just the way Coach Day answered that question just sounds ominous to me. Sounds like Mike Hall, we better hope he's back for the Michigan game. Right now, if I'm a betting man, I would say he won't be, but I don't have any insider information, just based on the way Coach Day answered that question, it seems like it's probably a multi-week thing.
Yeah, it comes at a terrible time, obviously, because you've got to play big and strong and rugged to beat Michigan, and to have go into that game without one of your top defensive tackles. It's not going to go well. Obviously, now Tyleik Williams and Ty Hamilton have done a good job, keeping Ohio State in there, but this is where Hero Kanu and Jaden McKenzie and some of these other guys, maybe JT Tuimoloau moves inside, and you go with a quicker package, with Courier Kenyatta Jackson outside perhaps, but there's a lot of different ways that they can approach it. They got to get their best 11 on the field, and obviously some of that's impacted in the back as well. Lathan Ransom was one of their best players, and doesn't look like he'll play this week or next week either. So, they're hoping he would come back at some time before the season ends. But, what does that really mean? The playoff, if they're in the playoff. So, and again, these injuries are hitting at the absolute worst time. Tommy Eichenberg missed the last game. They're hoping that he'll be back. Josh Proctor, they're hoping that he'll be back. So it's kind of a revolving door. Guys going in and guys coming out. They got Denzel Burke back last week, so that was a godsend, obviously. But to me, it's just get everybody as healthy as you can and go up there, give it your best shot. That's all they can do.
You went through them all. I was going to say, it doesn't sound good for Mike Hall, like I said. Obviously, we know about Lathan. He's not going to be back for the Michigan game. Coach Day said so he's not going to be back in the next couple of weeks. As you said, maybe he'll be back for the postseason. I imagine if they're in the CFP, Lathan will try and come back. Anything short of that, he won't. And it's not even a guarantee that he would be there for the CFP. But, yeah, it looks like Tommy's going to – I imagine what they're going to do with guys like Tommy and Proc with the whole load management thing that they're doing this year where guys could play, but they hold them out just to rest them like they did with Cade one game, like they did with the Mecca a couple times. With it being senior day, I think Tommy and Josh Proctor are going to play like very limited snaps just to get them out there on senior day and get them on the sideline and get them ready for Michigan. Do you agree? But it sounds good with Tommy and Proc. Mecca looked like he re-injured himself last week. I don't know why he was in there in the second half, but I guess it's not all bad news on the injury front.
Yeah, I would look at it kind of the way that you're talking about it. I thought they handled the Michigan State game perfectly in terms of getting everybody work and getting everybody, a lot of people were done at halftime. A few of them played a series or two in the third quarter. And I thought it was great that so many backup players got to play basically a quarter and a half of football. So that can only bode well, for this season as well as for the future. So, yeah, I'm again, cautiously optimistic as you look at it that they're going to be able to put their best guys out there a week from now at Michigan when, everything's on the line. They should be able to take care of business this week against Minnesota. Minnesota's been very underwhelming, 5-5 this season, and did beat Iowa 12-10, no touchdown for them in that game. And, just not the kind of offense that PJ Fleck, I think, was expecting to have with Minnesota. And so, coming in off, I think, back-to-back losses as well. So, yeah, they had everything right there. They could be in the driver's seat in the division with the win over Iowa. And honestly, there is still a glimmer, well, not much of a glimmer of hope. They have to beat Ohio State and Wisconsin, and Iowa has to lose its last two games. I know they play Nebraska next week. Not sure who they're playing this week, but if that 0-2 Illinois, if that 2-0 and 0-2 scenario happened, then Minnesota would be the division winner. But it's not looking good for that.
Yeah, I'm surprised Minnesota's not better than what they are. 5-5 is even like misleading because they've played an easy schedule. Relatively speaking, in that Iowa game, they shouldn't have even won that game. That calling that punt back, I guess by the letter of the law, it was correct. The on-field officials didn't call it. The replay officials said it was an action. The guy was getting his. What we see all the time, he's trying to get his guys away from the ball.
But not ridiculous.
But you can't do that
to me. A fair catch is up here. Yeah, it's not here.
Right.
It's not here. It's up here.
So they're 5-5, but really they should be 4-6. And even 5-5 is not impressive. They've lost to bad teams. They got blown out by Purdue last week. Blown out. They lost by 19 at Purdue. 49-30. Minnesota lost last week. They're not good. Ohio State opened as a 28.5-point favorite. I believe it's fallen to 27.5, so just fallen a little bit. Maybe people think Ohio State's going to get a big lead and then get their starters out of there like they did last week. Probably so. I don't know. I mean, I'm just surprised Minnesota's not a little better than what they are.
Yeah, I agree. I think there was a lot of hope that they would push as a dark horse for that division championship. They beat Nebraska 13-10 in the first game of the season. My memory kind of has faded as to what happened in that game. I think it came down to a field goal at the end, perhaps. But to me, I just there's just not much there to wrap your arms around. Ethan Kalikamakis, their quarterback, has two 200-yard games this season, so he's not much of a threat. And they got a decent enough run game, I suppose. But they're in the hundreds in almost every offensive category. So, yeah, I'm not concerned one bit with Minnesota. If it's 28-3, if it's 38-3, it doesn't matter. The final score of the game doesn't matter. Just win the game, keep everybody healthy, and get ready to go play Michigan. That's all that matters.
That's exactly right. Amen. I mean, they're already banged up
17-3.
enough.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Get the game over with. Get the W. Get that game over with. Get everybody healthy. We can't afford any more injuries. They're already banged up enough. I mean, a guy like Latham, we'll get into more about the Michigan game in a moment. We'll close the show with that. But, yeah, I mean, Latham would be perfect for the Michigan game. I mean, I know they've got good depth at safety, and that's good. But still, Mike Hall, you need all the depth you can get. What if Ty Hamilton gets banged up or something? Or, I don't know. And I like that Hero Canoe's stepping up, but, man, you need all the depth you can get. So get these guys healthy. What'd you make of what Jim Knowles said yesterday? I know you asked him a very pointed question. I call it the comedic stylings of Jim Knowles. He was having a good time in there yesterday. I love his personality and I love his defenses. But you asked him straight up, like, why are you confident that, when the Michigan game rolls around, that your defense is going to be physical enough? He seems to be confident they will be physical enough against this very physical Michigan front. Michigan's extremely physical on the offense and defensive lines. But I thought that was a good question on your part. What'd you make of Coach Knowles' answer? And tell the good people about that.
Yeah, the tenor was basically Rutgers had over 200 yards rushing. And then last week, Michigan State came right out and had 20, 11, and 27 yard runs in the first two series. And then after that, Ohio State made some great adjustments. And I'm going to say that Michigan State maybe netted 30 or 40 yards on the ground the rest of the game, if that. So it was hard for them after that point. And what we saw was more helmets meeting the ball carrier at the line of scrimmage. And that's not what we saw against Michigan, the last 2 years. What we saw was big holes running downhill to where, okay, the runner, Corum or Edwards or whoever, has a big head of steam, and now it takes somebody, having to drag them down as opposed to stopping their momentum at the line of scrimmage and then getting helmets to the ball. So I asked basically, given what we've seen the last 2 weeks, I mean, why do you feel, that you're going to be up to the task this time where they weren't the last 2 times? And, he just said that he likes the physicality, that the way that they're playing right now. He admitted that the game is all about adjustments, and that sometimes you get into a game and they'll show you something that you really hadn't prepared for or that you hadn't seen in a while, and you have to adjust to it on the fly. And he liked the way that his team did that after those first 2 series with Michigan State. They had a field goal. They never took a snap inside the 34-yard line against Ohio State, which is pretty amazing. They made like a 51-yard field goal, I think, was their only scoring for Michigan State. So they really did slam the door on their head. And I think that, again, you have a guy like Tyleik Williams up front who's holding that point of attack. Ty Hamilton hasn't been bad. And then you're getting good run play, I think, a lot of times out of Sawyer, sometimes out of Tui Maloau, and certainly with those linebackers, Simon, Chambers to a degree, and Eichenberg. Plus, it's been great, when you've had the safeties involved as well. Even the corners, Igbinosun is not afraid, Hancock not afraid to stick their nose up in there on a rundown and make a play. So, without, the requisite giving up the pass on the backside yet, that really hasn't happened. So This defense has been phenomenal. It may not look good early in that Michigan game. Michigan may come out and gash them, but eventually I would think that Jim Knowles will come up with an adjustment or two to try and stop that or contain that. I think we're in for I wouldn't say a rock fight, 13-10 or something stupid like that, but probably something in the 20s. I don't think either team will get to 30 points in that game, but I think 20s, and Ohio State's going to have the best player on the field, Dave, a guy by the name of Marvin Harrison Jr. And if the offensive line could give Kyle McCord just enough time to get the ball to him, and he can work a route, where he gets 2 or 3 seconds to work a defender and free himself, the yards will come. I think he'll have 7-8 catches for 100 yards, and let the chips fall where they may.
Stick around. Steve and I are going to talk more about the Ohio State-Michigan game in 10 days and more Ohio State football in general. I want to let you guys know about our other sponsor, Factor Meals, and a great deal you guys can get. I love this company. This holiday season, you might be looking for nutritious, convenient meals to keep you energized on jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service, can help you fuel up fast for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle while tackling all of your holiday to-dos. My family and I love these meals. They're ready in just 2 minutes. They're high quality. It's stuff like Chipotle pork chops, chicken and mushrooms I had last night, creamy chicken and mushrooms, steak and green peppers, all kinds of good stuff, smoothies. It's all good. It's all high quality, and the meals are ready in 2 minutes. You pop them in your microwave, and they're high quality. They're good. Head to factormeals.com/Bucknuts50 and use code Bucknuts50 to get 50% off. That's code Bucknuts50 at factormeals.com/Bucknuts50 to get 50% off. All right, let's bring back in Steve. All right, so Buckeyes, like I said, man, I mean, if you look, and I imagine it's not going to change much. If you look at the look-ahead line, Ohio State's going to go to Ann Arbor as a 5.5-point underdog. I agree with you. I feel like it's like a 50-50 game. I kind of like Ohio State's chances. Maybe that's just the homer in me. Something tells me they're going to get it done this year, man. But I like that Ohio State's going to go in there as an underdog. They're going to hear people talking about how they're not going to win, and they're literally going to be an underdog, like I said. It's very rare that Ohio State's an underdog, and they seem to always play well when they're an underdog.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you're going to go into that game, and certainly all the talk's going to be about Michigan going for the three-peat with the Big Ten and 3 consecutive wins over Ohio State, something that obviously hasn't happened since the late 1990s. So, I just kind of look at it that, the Buckeyes have got to go in there and really play to their strengths, which is, in most cases, a great running game, a great defense that dictates field position, which I think in that game it's going to be tremendous. And most years it's special teams. Special teams have been kind of a downer, I think, for Ohio State the last year or two. But, they can't go up there and screw up a punt or, give up a big return or have a bad penalty that negates a return or anything like that, because, those yards are just, every yard means so much in that game. Jim Tressel used to say that 1 yard's really worth 2, that type thing. And he's not far off, because, neither team's probably going to approach 500 yards in that game. The winning team will probably have about 350 yards, and the losing team will probably have about 275 or 300. And it just tells you how important each yard is to win that game. So to me, with Henderson and Harrison, I don't think Michigan's seen anything quite like them this year at all. And I think Ohio State's going to be able to exploit some things, I think, with those 2 guys in particular.
Let's get you out of here on this. I said we're going to finish talking about Michigan. We've had a few questions about Mike Hall. Let's post Mika's from YouTube. Is there any chance Mike Hall stays another year? He's a third-year sophomore. I think, yes. If you guessed me at the beginning of the year, I probably would have said no. But he hasn't had that good of a year, and he's undersized, and he's oft injured. If he goes pro, I mean, even a guy like Tommy Togi, guy that we thought would be like a relatively high pick, was 4th rounder. Haskell Garrett went undrafted. If you're Mike Hall and you leave, you're probably going to be looking at 3rd day status, 4th to 7th round. Maybe I'm wrong. I think there's a chance he'll stay another year. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, that's a good point. I had a question about that in my chat, and I said, yeah, I think there's a distinct possibility that happens. Whereas before the season, you thought, oh, Mike Hall for sure is going to leave. I think Jack Sawyer is a guy that would really benefit, kind of like Zach Harrison did, by coming back for a fourth year and really, being that kind of all Big Ten type guy and all American possible candidate. So I think that you look at those two guys in particular. They're guys who were no-brainers, 2 months ago, and now, it seems like maybe there's a possibility that one or both could come back. Beyond that, you'd have to go up and down the line. Donovan Jackson probably headed out, I would think. Certainly Harrison and Henderson will be gone, you would think. I don't know. I mean, there may be some interesting decisions that are going to be made. Lathan Ransom in the secondary could come back. Theoretically he could. I suppose this injury has probably given him the thought of, I've done everything I need to do in college football. He put so many great plays on tape this year that, he's probably not a first round pick, but, certainly second, third round, maybe he could go as a safety. So, I don't know. It's an individual decision by each guy. I think Mike Hall's got a lot of great football out there that he could still play at Ohio State if he comes back, and certainly would help Ohio State. By my count, we only have like eight of the 22 starters may come back. So between the seniors and the guys leaving early, so they may go heavy in the portal. I think you got to go get a stud offensive lineman. I think you got to go get a stud defensive lineman. And maybe even a running back. I think, don't count that out. A difference maker, other than Henderson, who's hitting home runs at running back, maybe Hayden. So I think you need some help across the board, I think.
Great stuff from Steve Helwagen. Appreciate it, Steve. Thanks to all of the viewers. And
hey, I'm doing Ohio State Buckeyes live at 11 today. Check the front row for an hour-long webcast on Ohio State football at 11 a.m.
Our friend Mark Rogers.
That's it.
Great job. Great job from Steve. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. Appreciate it very much. Hope everyone has a great rest of your